On today's show, the newest development involving Jonathan Kuminga, but we're not going to spend too much time on JK. The majority of this program spent on the state of the NBA. How we feeling about hoops right now in the association? That's coming up.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy doody, everyone. Welcome into Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You can check out this show on YouTube. If you're hanging out with us right now, give us that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. You can also check us out on your favorite audio podcast platform. 5-star reviews if you are an everydayer, very much appreciated. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7, also CBS News Bay Area on TV in San Francisco. Evan Giddings, currently of 95.7, also the voice of the St. Mary's Gales men's basketball team on the radio in Moraga. He joins the program today. An update on Jonathan Kuminga. We'll sweep that under the rug. We'll get right into the fun stuff, state of the NBA, and then USA stars as compared to the world. Sound like a good itinerary? What's up, man? How we doing?
Yeah, howdy doody.
I'm
doing pretty good, Chuck. And I enjoy coming on each week because even though a lot of stuff in Warriors land hasn't changed, I always appreciate your vigor towards these subjects, your overall positivity and demeanor on things that a lot of people otherwise wouldn't commit themselves. So you're a better man than most, Chuck.
I do my best. I try not to hit everyone with the clickbaity thumbnails or whatever that so many pages do, but I got to lure you in somehow. And obviously the news to lure you in is not talking about Guy Santos splits. It's Jonathan Kuminga. It's this situation. It's what everyone wants to know. And the latest is that a number's been thrown around. The exact number that we thought. You have the latest from Brett Stein. Also another Siegel bomb has popped in as he's the most connected man on planet Earth. Give it to me. Everything that's gone on with Jonathan Kuminga in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, so I think one of Siegel's reports was Jonathan Kuminga is seeking $30 million. And that's been confirmed, at least by Mark Stein of the Stein line, that Jonathan Kuminga, and not just he, this applies to Josh Giddey, Cam Thomas, and the rest of the restricted free agency class. Those players are seeking contracts within the $30 million range per year. So Kaminga is included in that. But the Warriors, according to Mark Stein, have not gone higher than a 2-year, $40 million deal. So combined with Anthony Slater of ESPN's reporting last week that the Warriors offered what they believe to be, quote, a fair deal, that's what the Warriors think is a fair deal right now. They think he's a $20 million player. And while Kaminga, there's been conflicting numbers of 25 and now 30 here today, there apparently is a sizable gap between the two. I believe in both annual money and also years, it seems. So 2 years, $40 million is the latest.
Tell me this, though, and the 2 years makes sense because it lines them up with the Curry and the core over the next couple of seasons, the championship window, we will say, although everything that we've heard is that Jonathan Kuminga wouldn't be a part of that because they'd look to dish him off at the deadline. And if that's the case, why are the numbers such an issue here? Because you would think if $25 million is a flippable contract, you'd rather have that, or $23 million, whatever. You'd rather have that than the $20 million on the books because you can get a better player in return. Am I wrong saying that?
I think it would allow them some apron flexibility, and it would also give them a number maybe that they can combine or aggregate with another salary. Moses Moody, maybe they bring back another player. I think it also, Chuck, it allows them to give more money to Al Horford and perhaps to DeAnthony Melton, which are the two players that are hung up in all of this. And what they're saving the money for, to me, isn't necessarily that big of an issue. The fact remains that Jonathan Kuminga believes that he's a better player, financially speaking, than what the Warriors believe. And I think this is the hang up in all of this, is that he finds himself to be a player of a certain monetary stature, and they do not. The other issue that Kaminga is running into is that Sam Amick of The Athletic was reporting on the Kings side of things, who are a team that are interested in Kaminga, that they're not willing to go above 20 million per year, which he's obviously seeking. So it's not just the Warriors that are telling him that he's not a 25 or $30 million player. It's the market right now. And I think if Kaminga is interested in signing a contract, it's a completely fair deal to lean into, because it would get him out from under the Warriors relatively soon. It would make him tradable, and it would get him to a contract at age 25. So to me, right now, where things stand as we approach the end of July, that's the most reasonable deal out there for Jonathan Kuminga. 2 years for $40 million. And I think he would be wise to take it unless he has the gumption to play under that qualifying offer.
Could be qualifying offer season for a bunch of these restricted free agents if they're all expecting 30 million. When it comes to, let's say, the Kings, let's use them as a trade partner, and we talk about Keon Ellis is kind of a sweetener in a deal, and Kings fans are saying, you're not getting Keon Ellis. You guys are crazy. What I want to know is, they're legit. Kendrick Perkins, for one, a professional player in this league, seems to think that Jonathan Kuminga is truly a star in the making. And if so, the Sacramento Kings have the opportunity to get him, and all it would take is potentially Keon Ellis to sweeten a deal, and they're going to say no, and the 25 million to maybe meet in the middle. No, we're not going to do that. It tells me that the league as a whole, at least the teams that can trade for him right now, don't seem to think as highly of him right now. Am I wrong saying that?
I think they believe he's worth one or the other of what the Warriors want, which is a young player or a first-round pick. He's not worth both. He's not worth essentially what you're trading for and also sweetening the deal. Like, I think the Kings are willing to give up a first-round pick. I think the Suns might be willing to send a starting caliber player back, but sending a young guy and a first, that's not, in my opinion, the way I'm reading the market, what JK is worth. And so the Warriors, I think, might just have to lay in the bed that they've made at this point. But the fact remains, Chuck, that it's not just Kaminga. It's also Giddey. It's also Thomas. It's also Grimes. Cam Thomas recently, according to Mark Stein, turned down a 2 for $28 million deal because they weren't willing to go above the mid-level tax exception, and there was a team option in the second year. So compared to the rest of the market, outside of, I would say, Josh Giddey, that appears to be the most favorable deal out there. And I just don't know how that's going to improve the closer we get to the qualifying offer deadline on October 1st.
And here's the lesson from all of this, is that scoring is not the only thing that matters in the NBA, because Cam Thomas averaged 24 points a game last season, and he was offered the same amount of money, $1 million more per season than Moses Moody. That tells you all you need to know about, fits and defensive abilities and the ability to swing it and the ability to play make. And it's not always about just hunting shots and putting up 25 points per game, which a lot of people seem to think it is. We're going to continue this program, take it in a completely different direction. State of the NBA. How are we feeling about it? We're going to break that down coming up on Locked On Warriors. Let's tell you about America's #1 sports book. That is FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are doing whatever at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups. The app keeps it fresh. They got new daily promotions. It makes it fun to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, even makes regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, or a nerfy in baseball, no-run first inning, FanDuel makes it easy to feel like I'm literally in full uniform, like a manager. I've never understood why they do that, but that's what FanDuel makes it feel that way for me. New to FanDuel, customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Bet $5 if it wins, $150 in bonus bets, no questions asked. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Ev. So have you seen the recent 2K26 rankings that came out? The top 100 and the ratings that were given to the Warriors players. Have you seen that?
The last time I picked up a PlayStation, Xbox, or some sort of console controller, I think I had to give it up within 5 minutes of whatever quarter I was playing. So you're gonna have to fill me in on this one. I'm not very good at video games.
Okay, I was a human cheat code back in the day with Ty Lawson and that Nuggets team. I think it was 2K11. I would just run the full court press. I just hit the steal button over and over and over. It was the same button as shoot. So I'd steal it and then I'd throw up the full court shot. Oh, what am I doing? But man, I could turn the other team over. Lost a lot of games. But Steph Curry is obviously the top-rated Warriors player. He's a 95 overall behind LeBron, Luka, Shea, Giannis, Jokic. So he's 6th overall in the game. Jimmy Butler, shockingly, is lower than some guys that I think he's better than, specifically Zach LaVine, Kristaps Porzingis, Tyler Hero. Yeah, he's an 87. Lower than Zubac, lower than Darius Garland, lower than LaMelo, Sabonis, Franz Wagner. And then from there, it's Kaminga and Pods at 81s. It's Draymond Green at an 84. It's Moody at a 79. And then Buddy Hield the same rating as Quentin Post as a 77, which I thought was a little bit shocking. But anyways, I say this to bring up talent in the NBA and the league as a whole. Because for me specifically, like, I think the league is incredible right now. Player-wise, you go top to bottom, you look at the top 15 that they have in this game, and you see Kyrie at 16 and Ja Morant at 17 and Cade Cunningham's a stud at 18, Durant at 13. We have a lot of great players in the association right now. However, there's a lot of talk that the product has dropped off as compared to recent decades. Is this just the state of me getting older and you can't find as much joy in the little things in life? Because I look, Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, like these guys are all comparable to the stars of today's day and age, but it just felt like that era that I grew up in. You know, a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander Thunder jersey in 20 years is not going to hit the same way as a Vince Carter Raptors jersey. Come on now.
I mean, it might if he racks up a couple more MVPs, but I'm largely with you. I mean, I think that, look, the 3 most marketable players, and this is, in my mind, the issue with the state of basketball, I would argue are 3 players that are not on title teams. It's Steph Curry, it's LeBron James, and it's Kevin Durant. It's the triumvirate from the Paris Olympics. KD wasn't in the playoffs last year. LeBron got bounced in the first round. Curry got injured and missed a chance in the Western Conference Finals. Outside of that, Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic, I think, were the top 2 of the remaining 5 selling jerseys in basketball. And people aren't so sure about them. I just think that the most marketable players for the last 10 years, they're fading stars. They're white dwarves. And we are not sure who yet is going to take their place as champions, as most valuable players, as generational talents. Curry changed the game. LeBron dominated the game. So did Durant in his own way. There's no one yet that I think, even for someone like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, for us to look at and say that player combines the cool with the greatness on the court. And that's why people are just left wondering what's going to happen to the NBA.
I think a lot of it, too, that we don't look at as much nowadays was the popularity of just basketball shoes and then their influence in everyday life before the internet. I mean, AI was finger strap, made the sleeve so damn cool. Like AI was he was the answer. T-Mac had the T-Macs. Like you open up an East Bay catalog and you wanted a pair of T-Macs,
I had a pair.
Vince Carter jumping over people in the Olympics, like one of the original dunking kings. Shaq just being powerful as hell. Kobe with the fro. I mean, there was just so much marketability from some of these players back in the day. And I'm not going to say that, Jokic with the horses and the Greek freak and Shea and Luka don't have that same amount of pizzazz. That's why I'm asking the question to the chat, to the comments, to everyone. Do you feel like it's lost a little bit of luster? Is that just, nowadays we're so overstimulated with stuff in our lives that, nothing will ever be as cool as the late 90s?
Well, perhaps not. I mean, I do think we always glamorize the past.
I think that's probably what it is. I think the kids growing up nowadays think the same stature of all these guys is superstars,
True, but what I do think that's changed since you and I were pups, so to speak, Chuck, is that there is so much money combined with, let's take Jokic, who I think is a perfect example. He doesn't seem to care as much as we do. And I think that the internet has heightened our awareness of that. It's heightened our awareness to he's crying over a horse as opposed to winning an NBA championship when he's kind of just in the corner, maybe popping a bottle, maybe being done. SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder had one of the most anticlimactic bottle popping championship winning scenes that I've ever seen. And I think because social media has given a voice to a lot of stands and passionate, some smart, some off the deep end type of groups, we're now aware to the fact that these players, combined with the amount of money they make, do not care as much as we do. And I think that irks a lot of people and kind of wanes our interest as a collective, because why should I be as invested in a team or a player who makes $250 million more than anybody ever has before, some monstrous number, and they care less than it appears like they ever have? I think that's a big problem the NBA is dealing with, and that's why they're trying to provide incentives for players to play longer, to get in all NBA, but it all revolves around money. And I think the buy-in from the players, whereas when we were younger, Kobe would, ostensibly rip your head off to get a win. And KG was pounding the floor and snarling, and Shaq was dunking on, like, there was so much more seemingly buy-in from the players, and it felt like they cared.
Paul Pierce was coming out in a damn wheelchair. I mean, come on. The iconic moments, like that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
And honestly, the real iconic moment, maybe this is just because this is Locked On Warriors and we're extremely biased, but I think the best championship in the last 5 years was the one that the Warriors won against the Celtics. I thought that was just too, it was the present dynasty against one of the greatest franchises in sports in Boston. The East Coast, West Coast rivalry that was kind of built then, because there's not a lot of history in the last 60 years between those squads. And then it was the talk of Durant carrying Curry to NBA championships and Steph can't get it done. And then that Game 4 performance. And that was one that felt like, what are they going to say now? I mean, that was, we use it on the intro of the show, because it's just like, that felt like something. And for OKC, I'm sure the fans of the OKC Thunder, they're in the exact same boat, and they're saying you're a fool for even saying this, but it just didn't feel the same way.
I think it was because there was the most at stake, right? You're describing the storylines. You're also describing legacy. A legacy in many ways was affirmed for a lot of people. Like one of the main reasons why I think Curry is in the top 5 or top 10 conversation for a lot of people, I mean, not outside of the Bay Area, is because of that championship. He's bulletproof now. You cannot say anything about Steph Curry, basically, because he did it by himself for a lot of people, and he won a Finals MVP, which he absolutely deserved before he won that championship, but didn't have. And it was the only thing that people could strip from his legacy. And that's where I think that of the other championships, at least recently, there hasn't been any legacy, sort of affirming championships. There's been legacy building or foundational legacies for Jokic, for the Celtics, even for Oklahoma City. But now the question is, how do you continue to do it? Like, that was in many ways, the final chapter of the Warriors' dynastic run. And that's why we're all going to remember it. Whereas the Celtics' first one in many years, the OKC's first one in their franchise, like, now it starts for them and they have to follow it. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, it is the most notable championship in recent memory because there was the most at stake for the Warriors.
The state of superstars from the United States. We're going to break that down. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors. All right. So looking at the top 100 players from 2K, since we'll use a video game is kind of a good way to list everything out that is fairly accurate for the most part. There's not anything too egregious, especially in the top 10. If you're taking Team USA, LeBron, Curry, a healthy Tatum, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, those are your top 5 players in the United States, and putting them up against Jokic, Giannis, Shea, Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama. I mean, who you taking?
Well, I love to travel, Chuck. Give me the international team.
Is this the first time in our lives we can say that? In our lives, and definitely in older people's lives, that we can say like the top 5 international players as compared to the top 5 United States born players, the international team would win?
Yeah, I think so. And to be fair, it's been kind of building to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if any of the previous, maybe the last couple of years, once Jokic sort of established himself as the best player in basketball, and to be fair, he kind of took that mantle from Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, to me, the question is, are those guys, representative of the NBA? Yeah, I think they are. Curry, LeBron, and Durant are far more iconic. I think the one lasting hope that the American side has to grab, sort of a stranglehold of this competition of talent is Anthony Edwards. But a lot of people might dismiss him because he plays in Minnesota.
Cooper Flag?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him play an NBA game yet, but I think a lot of people are putting the weight of America on his young shoulders.
Yeah, literally the flag is on his shoulders, we shall say. But yeah, going through it, it's pretty fascinating because you got players like Donovan Mitchell who are nice. Don't get me wrong, very good player. Jalen Brunson, great player. Karl Anthony Towns. Let's go with Evan Mobley, Jaylen Brown. List goes on and on of really, really, really damn good United States born players. But it just feels like the LeBrons, the Currys, the Kevin Durant's, kind of the OGs that are leaving this league soon. While they may not be that much better, if at all, than some of those young players at this point, there's just that iconic attached to them that none of these younger players seem like they're going to reach. Like Donovan Mitchell, I think he's going to be a multiple times 10 all-star. But are you ever going to look at Donovan Mitchell in the same way that you look at a player like Steph Curry? I just truly don't think so. And I don't think there are really any young players in this league right now, even Anthony Edwards, who we're going to look at that way.
No, I'm 100% with you. I mean, if you just take a look at PER, which is, a baseline NBA stat, player efficiency rating, 4 of the 5 players at the top are all international. It's Jokic, it's SGA, it's Giannis, and it's Victor Wembanyama, and Doncic is a close 6th. So, and again, it's not a perfect metric, but the point is the best players in the game are not from domestic soil anymore. And Flag has an opportunity to get there. I think Edwards has a chance to break through. Tatum, hopefully, when he returns. Halliburton might have been approaching that sort of conversation had he not got hurt and been able to upset OKC in a 7-game thriller. But I think the international talent is now so established, Chuck. Like, it's almost just, if you ask, I think, an average NBA fan, like, where are the best players from? You wouldn't get segments of the country. You would get literal countries from abroad. Oh, well, Serbia's got Jokic, and France has Wemby, and Greece has like, they would be talking about countries as opposed to, the Midwest's got some guys. Like, we used to talk about East versus West Coast like it was Biggie Tupac. Like, we got better ballers out here. East Coast is kind of falling off, and now it's like we don't even have a place at the table in many of these conversations.
So the 70s is considered a time where there was, a lack of talent for the most part in the NBA. Obviously closer to the merger, so that would make a little more sense. But the 90s, oftentimes, minus Mike and certain players, was kind of the same way. Like, you look at some of these all-star games from the late 90s, and you're looking at players like Michael Finley and Rasheed Wallace, Chris Webber, great players, Dale Davis, Grant Hill, Allen Houston, Eddie Jones, Glenn Robinson, Jerry Stackhouse. Again, great players. but it does feel like top to bottom nowadays, the NBA player to player, comparing that era to this era, the players are so much damn better now. It feels like, truly feels like they're so much better. And it's hard to quantify because you're not stacking up. You're not going in a time machine, right? And having these guys, I'm sure the guys from the 90s would say we'd kick their asses. They're too soft nowadays. They chuck up too many threes, try to stop Shaq in the paint. Like, give me your all-star against our all-star team. You know, you got Jokic cheering on horses. He doesn't care like these guys did. Dale Davis would stop him down low. I truly don't believe that. But my question is, and I kind of bring it back to how we started this conversation, what does the NBA need to do to enhance the marketability? Because it did feel like even in the early 2000s, when I'm listing some of these all-star teams, Alonzo Mourning and Glenn Robinson and Stackhouse, Hall of Famers, many of them. But we got many Hall of Famers playing right now, right in front of our eyes, and it just does not feel like to me that they have that same level of marketability. Maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I am.
No, I think it's fair. I think what the NBA is missing are roles, like characters, you know, and in a way it's missing a little bit of the WWE factor that I think kind of, you know, permeated through the 2000s and 2010s. It's like,
that's why we love AI, right? Because I mean, he had the great season, and I think 01 when he took the Sixers to the championship, and he had many good seasons, but overall, like, you're looking at a pretty overrated player. If like, you're not talking top 10 best players of all time and Allen Iverson, you know, but to me, like, I revere him that way.
Yeah. And I look, he changed the way that style is approached in the NBA. And a lot of people were hesitant and didn't like him for it. So for some, he was, I don't know if a villain, probably a little strong, but for many people who like to dress the way that he did and play the game the way that he did, he's a hero. You know, he like, you ask a lot of the point guards, maybe not from this era, but from like Curry's, who are their favorites? It's like AI is on their list. And I just don't think that there's enough, like, there's not enough polarizing figures in the league for us to choose who we like and who we don't. Everybody's kind of just likable. They're not really that interesting, but yeah, I don't have anything against SGA. Like, sure, he grifts and he foul baits, but like, he seems like a nice dude, and he's got a young family, but I don't really know anything about him. You know, I'm going to root against OKC because they're the favorite, but I don't have really anything against them. Jalen Williams is pretty boring. You know, Chet Holmgren is maybe a disliked people by me because I like the WCC and I hate Gonzaga, but like, I don't really, if I'm an average fan, I don't care anything about him. So I just think that what the league is missing are heroes and villains, which is something they've pretty much had, and the Warriors have played the role of both for, I would say, the last 15 years.
Yeah, truly, man. Heroes and villains, dreams and nightmares.
Yeah.
And to those of you that are going to come at me about saying Iverson is overrated, first of all, I just said he's one of the most revered players in my entire life. Secondly, he was averaging 30 points per game, many seasons, MVP top 10, looks like
pass Chuck
6 times, but he didn't pass A. And then after age 30, he really fell off. No top 10 MVP votes after 30. And I mean, compare that to Curry, who's, you know, second team All NBA a season ago at age 36, I believe 37, yeah. Whatever it is. He didn't have the longevity. I mean, Iverson was out of the league by 34 years of age. So that's what I mean in terms of, like, I look at AI as one of the all-time greatest players ever. And when you compare him to the top 10 players in this league actively, where does he stack in there? You know, I mean, it's crazy just how it's all about perspective, kind of, you know, and when you grew up and how you viewed certain players. And Iverson was just one of those guys, T-Mac too, Malone, Stockton, whoever it may be. Anyways, good conversation, Giddings. Anything else you want to add to the show today? Very slow day in Warriors land. We've been saying that for, I think, close to 2 months at this point, which is pretty crazy that we've been able to give you these daily digestible shows for 2 months now, talking about literally nothing.
Yeah, well, just like Allen Iverson, Chuck, you're a man of the people, so you're here to give them what they need, which is dependent on the day. So I know we talked a little bit about JK at the beginning, but I appreciate the conversation and able to bat a few things around. I don't think the NBA is in a troublesome state or troubled state, but it definitely, like, as we get older, and you and I are about the same age, it gets further removed from like the glory days of. So it is kind of interesting to look back and like how did we remember Allen Iverson or Steve Nash or Jason Kidd or Kobe Bryant or some of these great players who kind of built the foundation of what we know to be basketball.
Evan Giddings on today's show. This is Locked On Warriors, everyone. Appreciate you for tuning in. You can check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. We will talk to you soon. Peace, everyone.